Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. My name's Elizabeth Davis. If you're new, I make lots of fashion videos and lifestyle content, so if that's your vibe, definitely subscribe. I have a little book recommendation video for you guys today. I've never done one of these, so I'm really excited to see how you guys like it. And I have read not a ton of books this year, not as many as I've wanted to, but I have read a lot of books that are like really intense, big, long books. So I have learned a lot this year. I've read a lot this year as far as pages, but the amount of books is actually kind of small. But the first book I want to talk about, I actually have a digital copy of. It's called Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess by Dr. Caroline Leaf. You guys, this is easily the most challenging read I've ever read in my entire life. I can't believe I didn't give up on this book because it was so hard to understand some of the stuff, because it's a lot of scientific knowledge and a lot of facts about the mind and the brain. However, Dr. Caroline Leaf explains it in a way for pretty much layman's terms for someone like me who I have never really studied the mind or the brain. And it really teaches you how to transform your thought life and how to create better habits through your thoughts, how to heal from toxic thoughts, toxic relationships, all that kind of thing, how to overcome it on a personal level. And it's so interesting to understand how the mind works. So if you're struggling with toxic thoughts such as like depression, or you feel like you're not good enough, I would really highly recommend this book. This one helped me through a very dark time in my life when I did not know what was up or down. I did not know why I was depressed. I didn't know what was going on, and I'm not naturally a depressed person, so I can't even sit here and say like, oh, it's a mental illness. I think Dr. Leaf has a really incredible way of helping you understand the difference between mental illness and just something that could be a toxic thought, not diminishing it at all. She's like so validating, and it's so important for us to understand what our minds do and how they can actually work against us if we aren't careful. And she really explains how to reverse your thinking and what it will do for you if you are consistent and you don't give up on it. So definitely read this book if you want to improve your mind, if like your thought life is not well right now. I know mine wasn't. It's still not where I want it to be, but I'm not laying in bed depressed every single day anymore. So it really helped me out. So Dr. Leaf has a podcast as well. It's also called Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess. I just had to say that because her podcast is what led me to want to read the book, and it made me want to understand the mind more, and it made me want to kind of get out of my own toxic head. So that's why I really like that book. Now, to follow up with that, I actually read Jenny Allen's book, Get Out of Your Head. And I wasn't really planning to read this, but I was at Walmart, probably around Easter, and I saw this book, and it was a really good price, and I was like, knew that obviously I have read other books by Jenny Allen and I love them, which we're going to talk about those too. And I had just come off of doing some like mind exercises that Dr. Leaf recommended, so I figured this book would be good to kind of supplement that and to continue my journey on getting out of my head. So this is really good. This gives you more of a Christian perspective. I do believe Dr. Leaf's a Christian, but she talks about it more from a scientific perspective, whereas Jenny Allen does an incredible job driving home the spiritual end of your thought life, and she still talks about the science behind it a little bit. She does touch on that. So this is actually really incredible. If you're not ready to commit to such a scientific read like Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess, this is a good alternative, but I highly recommend reading both. Next is another Jenny Allen book. This one's called Find Your People, and I have a little testimony story to tell you about this book. So when I started reading this book, I had just started going to the church I'm at now. I had only been there about, I don't know, I want to say 3 months or 4. And I started to feel like this could be my home church. I really like it here. And so the timing of this book, I kind of thought, well, I don't really need this book. I have a lot of good friends, you know, and I do, but I feel like there's been some friends that maybe the friendship's not what it used to be. So I'm kind of back to the drawing board in some relationships that I've had with friends. And this book does a good job of explaining how to overcome that. And like, for me, I haven't had to make new friends in a really long time. So I realized that I don't have all the friends that I need. Like, I have a couple of really great friends, which is awesome, and that's what she says in the book you should have. But I don't really have a circle of people, or I didn't. And now reading this book made me be like, I should really try out the young adult group at my church. And at first I was just very against it. I've had a lot of opposition in young adult groups throughout my church life, which is a whole other testimony, but it was hard for me to want to put myself back out there in the church and to want to make new Christian friends. And I mean, this is a church like no other that I've ever been to, and I'm like, but I think this church is different. And I really encourage you to read this book. It actually prompted me the Holy Spirit prompted me to go to this group through this book, and I have fallen in love with my church. I want to be involved. I want to make friends there. I am making friends there. It's really awesome to see the fruit of what happens when you just take a step of faith and choose to kind of give Christians a chance. You know, it can be hard because we're all human, and I realized through reading this book also that yes, I have been so hurt by Christians, but I also know I have hurt people, and there's a thing called grace and forgiveness, and I decided that I was going to no longer allow my past hurts to hold me back from making new friends, because at the end of the day, we are all human, and I'm gonna hurt people. People are gonna hurt me. It is what it is. And it also talks about how to kind of like overcome conflict like with your friends, and it's just such a good read. The next book I'm going to talk about is another like nonfiction book. It is called The Most Powerful Woman in the Room Is You, and it's such a good book. I love it. I listened to the audiobook, so I didn't actually read it, but I did listen to it, and it was so good. I think one weekend I borrowed it from the library, and I got it on my Libby app from my library, and they have audiobooks on there, so I had to return it within like 2 more days, and I still had half the book left to listen to. So I actually sped up, because you can speed up like the reading a little bit and make them read faster, and so that's what I did. I read it at like 1.25 instead of 1, you know, so it was like a quarter faster than what it was before, and I loved it. I was like, this book is so good, I would reread it. So I'm definitely going to reread it again this year, and I think I actually want to get a physical copy of it. That way I can underline and highlight and all that good stuff. I like to do that with my fiction books every now and again, especially ones that have such an impact on me the way this book did. The reason I love this book is because it really encourages you as a woman to chase your dreams and to not allow your fear to hold you back, like to really believe in yourself and believe in your ability and your talents and your gifts. And I always put a spiritual twist on it if it's not a spiritual book. Like, I kind of looked at it through the lens of my calling, like that I feel that God is calling me to. For me, that's YouTube. For you, it might be like you're called to help a certain group of people, or you are just called to be like an evangelist of some sort. It's really good. I mean, even if you just want to open your own business and you want to start that and you want to go for it, this book really encourages you to do that, and it kind of gives you like the motivation to do it. Oh, it's just so good the way she says things, and she talks about her own career as an auctioneer and now an author, and she's a mom, and she just like talks about how she balances everything, and she seems like a really awesome person. So definitely check her book out. This is the last nonfiction book, and then I promise I have some fiction ones. But the one book that I have really loved that I just finished was Woman Evolve by Sarah Jakes Roberts. Oh my gosh, it's so good. You guys have got to follow her. Her podcast is great. It's also called Woman Evolve. She has speaking engagements called the Revolution Tour that she's going to be doing around the United States. She goes live on Instagram and speaks wisdom and godly life into you. Like, she's just an awesome woman, and I've really enjoyed following her. Her book is so good. It just hits home for me. Like, it talks all about the things I've been struggling with as a woman and things that I want to accomplish and the fear that I have and how to overcome that. And it's sort of like The Most Powerful Woman in the Room Is You, but definitely more Christian based, and really just kind of like talks about, if you know what God's calling you to, go for it, and how to stop that voice in your head that wants you to quit. You know, it's really good. So definitely check that out. I really highly recommend that. Probably the most out of any book that I'm going to tell you about. The rest of the books are going to be fiction. First one is this one. I get the Book of the Month box, and you can get like a subscription to this book box, and you get a bookmark and one book for, I think it's like $17.99 a month, and then you can do add-ons, and all the add-ons are really affordable. They're between like $10 and $15, which they're all paper hardback. I'm sorry, they're all hardback, and they're really good quality, and it's like sturdy and nice, and I really like it, and it's just super cool. So definitely check out Book of the Month. So all of the books that I'm going to talk about from here on out are from Book of the Month. So this one is A Woman Is No Man, It's about a girl from, oh, what country? Palestine. She's from Palestine, and she has an arranged marriage, and she comes to the United States. And then she has a daughter who grows up in Brooklyn, New York, and it talks about their life and their culture and how women are just not looked at the same way as men in the Palestinian culture. And it's really, really, really good. This book was very heavy, I will tell you that. It's a very intense story. It really tugged at my heartstrings, and I just felt for the main characters, and it was just, I feel like it was, normally whenever I get attached to a character, it feels like I know them. I wouldn't say that about this. It didn't really make me feel like I knew her, but it did make me feel empathetic for her and just everything she goes through as a woman. And even though, you know, it's modern times, whenever she tells her story, you know, the daughter of the mother from Palestine, the culture really didn't shift any. It didn't change at all. It was like basically like they always lived in Palestine, and it was just that way of life, even when she lives here in New York now. And it's just very powerful, and it's so insightful to understand somebody else's culture versus my American culture. You know, Palestinian culture is much different, and it's so interesting. It even talks about the food they eat and the way they dress and the tea they drink and coffee and just all these different aspects of their life, and it really gives you a good insight into that and just how different it is from America. So I really like that book for that. She did a great job. I think she's coming out with another book. The ending of this book is so, I was amazed. I don't usually get impressed by the ending of a book. I generally don't like the ending of a book, but she did great. She did a great job with the ending. So I recommend the book pretty much for the cultural purpose of understanding a different culture, and also the ending. So good. The next book, this one is pretty good. This one's called The Magnolia Palace. This one is by Fiona Davis. We're last name twins. And this book is about a model who goes to this palace in New York. I believe it's in New York, I think. Yes, New York City's Gilded Age mansions. So that's what this is about. And this model goes there, and she just got her first modeling gig, so that's what she's there for. And she meets a boy, and they kind of explore the palace together and all of the secrets. And then it kind of takes and shifts gears a little bit to talk about the history end of the book, where it talks about the secretary and how she comes to work for the people who live at this palace, at this big mansion in New York. And it talks about kind of like her challenges with helping the people who live there, and it's just really good. It's like, I'd say it's a good historical fiction book, so definitely check this out if you like historical fiction. And the ending for this one's pretty good too. I liked it. It didn't have like a twisted end like the other book. The other one kind of like, it's like a plot twist sort of, but this one is not that way. It's kind of a predictable ending, but it's still a really cute story, and it's very interesting, and the character development's very good too, especially for when you're bouncing back and forth between times, you know, timelines. I feel like it's hard to accomplish good character development when you're talking more about the history, and you kind of get more involved in the history side of things and you do the character development. And I think this book does a great job of doing both of those, so check this out. And last but not least, the book that I'm currently reading, I'm almost finished with it. It's called The Mistress of Paris. I really hope the ending is good for this book. I'm probably going to finish it before I get this video up, so I will let you guys know in the description what I think. But this one is a World War II book, and it talks about this woman who helps, she's an American woman and she's living in France, helping refugees get out of France once it was kind of taken over by the Germans. And it's a really good historical fiction book. I love how intense it is, and it's just, I don't know, I will say, just as a kind of warning, it might trigger some people. There is a little bit of violence between like a man and a woman, so if that's something that would trigger you, I wouldn't recommend reading it, but it is really good. Same thing with that, What the Woman is No Man. If you get triggered by like domestic violence or just assault in general, I wouldn't recommend either of those books. Magnolia Palace does not have any of that in it, but if that doesn't trigger you, it's really good, and I think it gives the story more depth. She's the postmistress, so what she'll do is she'll take a letter to a family that's probably trying to get out of France or whatever. She never really is told why she has to do these like missions essentially, and she takes the letters to the families. They read what it says, and she just like delivers, you know, because you can't just go telling people during this time because they'll arrest you and put you in an internment camp. So it's all about just refugees and getting out of Paris and France, and not being in the occupied zone and trying to get people out of the occupied zone. And it's just so intense at certain moments, and it's like, oh my gosh, are they gonna make it? Are they gonna make it? And I still don't know if they do. So it's really good, and I just can't wait to finish it tonight. So that's it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you pick out some of these books for yourselves. They're all going to be linked in the description. I'm also going to link Book of the Month so you can check out their website. It's not sponsored or gifted or anything. I just really like them, and hopefully they work with me one day. That would be awesome. But they are really cool, and I think you guys would really enjoy like a Book of the Month box if you are a reader. So thanks, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next vlog. Adios.